Welcome back to the channel. It's me, Time Lord Will, or Time Lord Sleep, or whatever moniker I'm going by right now. Nice to meet you again. The little image right there you see, that is a character my wife drew for me to represent me when we play games together on her Twitch. I'm not going to link her Twitch because, one, I don't have an audience, and two, probably not a good idea to link me to her, because I talk about some not very good things occasionally. Don't want to ruin her career before it gets built up, right? Anyway, she does really like Borderlands 2 a lot. She likes the violence and the insanity of the character I play as, which is the Psycho. She's playing the Siren, I'm playing the Psycho. Go figure. I didn't tell her to pick the Siren, she chose the Siren. So I'm the one who chose the Psycho as the fun part. Plus, I like playing the Psycho with people. It's always entertaining. The other stuff I'm doing right now is I'm forcing myself to get back into miniature painting because I need to actually do something with all the models I have. I'm trying to resist buying more models, so I'm just painting models as much as I can, building them and painting them. Plus, I want to actually have some models I can use for different games, whether it be Rain in Hell or Rain in Iron or Death Wizard or any of the other games I have manuals for. Kill Team, Warcry, whatever. I want to have miniatures that are actually painted for that stuff. I might actually try making a Space Marine army again, which means I need to get the Codex and other books, or just, print the rules off the internet because it's always fun. But, I don't know. I did do a head count of Marines because I was looking for one particular model, and I can't find it. It's the Death Guard. It's a Death Guard from the Dark Imperium box from years ago for 8th edition, and there was one of the Death Guard models has a kind of a sword-looking hatchet-looking sword that's in his left hand, with the blade facing down, with a bolter in his right. I cannot find that model. I checked multiple rooms of my house. I've checked any possible place it could be. The two places, the little open box to keep them in was a drop pod box from years ago, and I just kind of set the miniatures in there during the move to my house I'm at now. And this was years ago when the move happened. So either A, I didn't have them in the box when I moved, and they got put into a random container. They were left at the old house that I lived at, and undoubtedly the kids that lived there after I left, because my sister was still living in that house, found the model and destroyed it, or kept it, or used it for whatever they want to use it for. The box fell. The box I had them in fell in April at my house. Cats knocked the whole box down and the pieces scattered everywhere, broke a few of the Death Guard models, more than what they already were. And the model just is lost somewhere. I haven't found it yet in that room. My dog ate it at that point, or my dog ate it, found it and ate it. She likes to chew random things, and she will chew plastic a lot. So she found it, destroyed it, and ate it. Or the more than likely scenario, when I primed them, I took them outside and sprayed them with spray paint, gray primer. There's a good chance that the model flew off the table and got lost in the grass, and I just didn't notice. When I went to hours later and grabbed the models and brought them back in the house. So there's a potential that model was in the grass that I mowed a few days after that. If not the same day, a few days after. So there's a good chance that model has been completely destroyed for years now. I don't know. But while doing that, I found out that I have an entire box of Tactical Marines I never opened up. It's still wrapped in plastic, everything. And I bought that box of Tactical Marines to make more Devastator squads. 5-man Devastator squads with the heavy weapons. Well, 4-man Devastator squads with the Sergeant and then the 4 heavy weapons. I bought Tactical Marines to make more squads. That's all. Of course, that happened I bought the stuff right before the rule came out with that edition. I think 9th edition. I think it was 9th edition when I was trying to really hone in on making a good army. Or was it mid-8th edition? Well, it might actually have been 8th edition when I was really trying to build as many, build an actual competitive army for the first time and actually try to do good. Either way, 8th or 9th, there was a rule passed that you couldn't have more than 3 of the same kind of unit in your army. So because someone took Eldar and had just superior firepower that could just wipe out everything because they had so many of this one heavy weapon unit. I can't remember exactly all the details for it, but it made it where I would only be able to run 3 Devastator squads. My goal was to have 3 full Devastator squads of heavy bolters. I was using the heavy bolters from the original 2 Horus Heresy boxes that came out years ago, Burning Prosperos and Betrayal Koth. I was using the heavy bolters that came with those kits to bulk up the Devastator squads. Plus, I like the idea that you have these newer Devastator squads carrying this massive heavy bolter, and then you have these guys with these tiny little guns doing the same amount of damage. I always like that idea. But moving on from that, it turns out if I have 5 full 10-man squads of Tactical Marines built. I thought I only had 3, maybe 4, but I had 5. So I have more Marines to paint because the two of the tactical squads weren't painted, and I didn't think about them for years. So I potentially already have quite a few models ready to go. I know I have I have 2 full Devastator squads. Various weapons are on both Devastator squads. 5 Tactical Marines. 5 squads of Terminators. 5-man squads of Terminators. 1, 2, 3. I have 2 Ironclad Dreadnoughts, a Venerable Dreadnought, which counts the same model now. A Califraki Dreadnought. No, sorry, Contemptor Dreadnought. The Redeemer Dreadnought. Redemptor Dreadnought? Yeah, Redemptor Dreadnought. And then that wannabe Dreadnought, with the pilot that sits in the cockpit. That Dreadnought. That's just the Space Marines. I have Khadgar, which I have to put together. I have a veteran squad of Space Marines to put together. I still have all the Primaris that came with the original Dark Imperium box. Squad of Scouts that are Primaris Scouts. And 2 drop pods. Plus a Land Raider. So I think I have enough points. I have enough models to get to 2,000, if not higher. I know when I was trying to see how many squads I had, I was adding everything a full Imperial list. Back when you could do a full Imperial list, I had just under 5,000 points of just pure models. That's before adding anything else to it. So I could just run a mini apocalypse game myself as being the entire Imperial faction. Could I do it? Rule-wise, probably not. I kind of suck at it. But that's beside the point. I'm trying to get back into painting more often because I need to paint. I loved painting. It helped keep me calm. Help kill the tension in my mind. Just sit there and paint. I'm painting a Death Guard is it champion? Whoever's in charge of the Death Guard squads. I'm painting the one from the Dark Imperium box. With a big power fist. That's the one she chose. Though she didn't know it had a fly attached to it, and the fly kept falling off, so I had to super glue it last night. But I started painting it as well last night. She wanted it purple and black, so I'm doing various shades of purple, and I will mix up some blacks and dark greens to help make it work, I guess. The method I've started trying to do with painting is I listen to Tabletop Minions, Uncle Adam, great guy, and I started setting up a set time. Basically, if I'm not able to at least sit down at my desk with my stuff ready to paint by 9:30 or at the latest, or 10:30, by 9:30 at the latest, 9:30 at the latest, on most nights I don't paint. I just don't. Sometimes last night I painted at 10 because I already knew I wasn't going to paint very long, and I just painted a few things purple, and that was it. Purple, and then violet. Army Painter's Orc Blood onto some other parts, and that's all I got done last night. And I was happy with that little bit of progress, because it means now I have committed to painting that model. Painted some Bone Reapers. I got done painting Bone Reapers last week. Made a little TikTok of it. Might repost the video onto YouTube if I think about it. Just overall doing well. A friend I have who is starts his new job soon, so that's fantastic for him. Excited for him, because that way I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to worry about him not doing well. So yeah, it's fine. Everything's good. Overall, everything's gonna be okay. Turns out I also found out earlier this week I have a games workshop near my city. It's near me in the sense of American near, not in the sense of England near. It's a whole day trip, a whole trip to go out there. And that's where things get funny. So I was told by a coworker that I should just do podcasts, just talk about random things. And I guess the beginning part was more of the catch-up stuff that most podcasts do anymore, where they sit and talk about nothing having to do with anything. And then they shift to the actual topic. So my topic is the difference between England and Europe. Well, England and America. I'm going to shift slowly into other topics that tie into it, because that's how my train of thought works. So people have asked people in England before, how far is the trip? And people say, oh, anything over 40 minutes, that's a trip. That's the average for America, really, if you think about it. A trip for us is anything like over 2 hours. Like today for work, I'm having to drive about 2 hours away from our office to work on something, and that's normal for me. My first year with this job, I was driving easily 300 miles a day for day after day after day for weeks and months, especially when my manager got fired and we had no manager. It was me taking care of all the calls so my coworkers could keep doing what they needed to do, and I could just go fix everything myself, because it was easier for me to go fix things than have to explain things over the phone and have to go out and fix it anyway. But people have asked, there's been recordings of other people who talk to their English friends, and they've said, an English person would mention, I've only seen my parents twice a year. They just live so far away. How far away do they live? 40 minutes. My parents live about 40 minutes away from my house, and I see them regularly. It's one of those things of distance in America is so different than distance in England. Even though it could be the same distance, actual distance measured out, our perception of how far that is completely different. To me, a 40-minute trip is nothing. To England, people in England, A lot of people think that's incredibly a far distance. And it kind of has to go to how our cities are laid out. England, Europe, most of Europe, England, and small, tiny villages in Asia, and also Japan itself, most places in Japan. Everything is close together because it had to be. Everything had to be built together. In America, everything was built together when we first started out because we didn't have the automobile, we didn't have the ability to travel long distances. So everything had to be condensed and put in small areas. That's why in New York, if you look at the older movies in New York, you had blocks that were with everything together. Another good example of this, with stuff you can still see today, is the old Soviet Union areas. The half blocks, essentially. They have pretty much everything they need right there, within walking distance of their giant complexes. This is something you can see in England. England has all these small stores and everything else. All that is relatively close to each other, and that is just how they're set up. That's because all that stuff is pre-existing. Because all these cities are so old, they can't really rebuild or add on to be more spread out. A lot of the territory you can't do with a lot of the older countries. America was special because America had everything was started off small, but as things got bigger, they could expand further out because they had the land. America has the land. We can keep expanding outward endlessly if we wanted to. And then just bulldoze the old and rebuild from behind. Because America is able to, if we need to build new houses, we don't have to build on top of each other, we can just build further out. Or if we need to build more businesses, we tear down the old and rebuild it, or just build another business somewhere else. Then you also have to do, so we have space, that's what led to us having some things so far away from each other. Where you have a small town, but all the food and grocery stores are in the next town over. Because that small town can't support a grocery store, for whatever reason. Now, there is a second thing to this, that one reason why a lot of the smaller, everything being near you in some of the bigger cities has slowly faded away to nothingness, and that is, in America at least, and that is due to, property tax. Or urban decay, and the more or less push to end family businesses. We'll cover that last one here in a few minutes, but we're going to stick with the first two to start with. So, property taxes and taxes in general, ordinance, all this other stuff, as we keep going forward in society, building our cities and everything else, at least in America, more ordinance get passed, more citations more rules for permits, all this other stuff have to keep being made in order to keep things from falling apart. The last thing you want is to walk into a bakery and you take one step and you fall 40 feet to your death because the floor wasn't serviced correctly, or the area underneath the floor was given out completely. A lot of the New York has some of the biggest issues with that because they constantly have new laws and permits and everything you have to get in order to stay in business. And because of urban decay, things start to fall apart. Older buildings can stand for a long time, but if things start to break down, it's more expensive to fix it because you can't just patch the old stuff and it still be compliant. You have to get entire systems redone. For instance, if you have a leaky pipe, most of the time the pipe is one massive piece and you can't just replace that pipe because they pass an ordinance, they pass a law, they pass some kind of code that makes it where you have to replace the entire pipe instead of just replacing the section you need to fix. Which means it's more expensive, which means you tear apart more area, potentially potentially tear apart more of the building itself, which means you have to then replace that section of the building with brand new parts of the building. You can't just patch it, you have to get it fully replaced. While yes, this seems safer overall, it means it's more expensive overall, which causes business to just go belly up because it cannot afford to keep repairing everything or replacing everything. It becomes too expensive. As for other aspects of urban decay, it's simply put that once an area starts going downhill with crime rates or buildings being left to rot, you're gonna start losing money, or you become the only source of whatever your family business is in that area. We're gonna go with the convenience store or the corner store. I live in Savannah, and there's a few areas of Savannah that used to have a lot of corner stores or a lot of businesses in general. You can drive through those areas now, and those businesses are gone. There might be one or two left out of the dozens that were there. Even the car washes are shut down in most areas of the city because there's no one who wants to go wash their car there. Or the businesses did not do well enough to stay in business. Or the machines were getting broken into constantly. The one store I used to work on equipment at, that was the store. There was no other store for like almost a mile in multiple directions. The closest thing to it was a gas station that was about 5 blocks ahead of it on one of the busier streets. Yeah, you could walk there, but the prices weren't as good as the prices there for snacks and drinks and beer and cigarettes. You went to this store, the store I service equipment at, and that's where people went. But looking down the street, there was nothing else. There were no other businesses on that street. But there were plenty of places that were businesses at some point. One was a Chinese restaurant that I think is still open, and it's only open because it's the only restaurant that serves food within blocks of that place. I think the next closest restaurant is about a mile away. No, wait, it's a Crystal's. That's about just under a mile away. Just under a mile away from this convenience store. So yeah, there's a Crystal's just under a mile away. Other than that, there's no other restaurants nearby. So there's stuff like that where places just leave, just no longer exist, and you have nowhere to go but keep these small businesses open. But eventually those businesses will close because, this is the final topic, there's so many things in our modern media telling us that we don't have to stay and help run the family business. It's not our job to. As children growing up with families that have businesses, we don't have to run the family business. We don't have to, involve the family business. Be our own person. Let the family business run itself. And that's honestly a sad thing to really push. A lot of successful businesses that exist today exist because they have been a family business for so long. McDonald's the exception because McDonald's was the beginning of the corporation business. But if you look at businesses such as Ford was a family business for so long, and more or less still kind of is a family business. Walmart is still a family business, family-owned business. There's so many businesses that are still family-owned. There are a few, and then you look at these convenience stores, the oldest ones, like in New York. You have businesses that have been in a family, or at least were in a family for at least a couple of generations before they sold to someone else who's running it just because they worked there at one point. They're still being ran like a family business, where they pull in family members to help run it, and it's all you trust the people you work with, and you can honestly have a great service there because it's gonna be the same thing every time you go in, and it actually, helps people who work. Sorry, I'm stumbling over myself now. A family business can help promote a sense of promotes responsibility, but also teaches the family members who work there how to do something without the fear of getting fired for messing up something small. Because there's potentially more leniency with people learning how to do something at a family business. Yes, you can't fuck up too bad or you still get fired, but still you have a safety net of you messed up here, but let's see if you can do something else. I'm thinking about restaurants. My aunt owned a restaurant, and I was hoping she would still have the restaurant today because I wanted to get out of high school and I wanted to go work in a restaurant. That was a goal I had in mind. I wanted to work in her restaurant. I never got the chance to because she sold the business, or closed the business. I think she closed the business. She closed the business down before I got out of high school. Or as I got out of high school, so I never got a chance to do my thing I wanted to go do. Same thing with my grandmother's store. She ran a store right next to my aunt's restaurant, and during the summer when I was in middle school and early high school, was great. I would help my grandmother at the store sometimes during the summer, and we'll eat lunch from my aunt's restaurant, and that's what we did a lot. But things happen. I just like the idea of the family business because to me, it promotes growth because it promotes the sense of going out, learning something, coming back, and helping the business grow. Unfortunately, you have some businesses that never grow, and then you have this whole narrative from Hollywood and other story writers that make it where, you go off to college to learn the family trade, and or to get better at get some kind of degree, and the characters expect to come back and apply that trade to the family business to make the family business grow. But the character doesn't want to make the family business grow. They want to go off and do their own thing now. They have the big ideas, and the family business is holding them back. And the whole story plot becomes them coming to terms that their family is not going to support them, and to the very end, then the family supports them. And yeah, that's one of the tropes that is annoying to see. There's a flip side of this coin where the person comes back and goes off and do their own thing for a long time, then comes back and runs the family business, or helps someone else run their family business. If you know Hallmark movies, Christmas movie tropes, you know what I'm talking about. The person comes back to a small town and they help someone else run their family business as they leave the significant other in whatever busy city they live in. Ugh. Strawberry mango, weird flavor. But you see the trope more often than not be the person trying to escape the family business because they don't feel like the family business is for them, which is fine. That's something that always pops up. But you see more or less messaging telling you not to join the family business, push away from the family business, do something else. Don't do the family business, no matter what. Family businesses have a legacy tied to them. Yes, that sometimes the legacy isn't good, but there are more good legacies tied to a family business than bad, in my opinion. And honestly, there should be a push to do more family businesses in America. We are losing those small businesses all the time. You have convenience stores that get shut down. Let's say convenience stores, for instance. There are plenty of convenience stores all around. You've seen them all the time. And more or less they become a family business, but they're a family business as far as that you have one person and like all their family members work in the same place for a little bit. In England and Europe, most of Europe, they have family businesses that have been around for hundreds of years. Well, probably not hundreds, but at least a few generations. In Japan, they have family businesses that have literally been around for hundreds of years. Candy makers, all kinds of stuff. Special food makers, ramen makers, sushi chefs, all this stuff. And they teach they teach the next generation how to do the business, and the ones who succeed great at it take over the business, while the other ones help work it or go off to do something or learn something that can be used to help the business later on, whether it be finances, marketing, whatever it is. That's ultimately what a family business should be treated as. The ones who want the one who wants to actually run the business or do the work for the business that is required. So let's say a convenience store, someone who wants to run the convenience store, take care of the convenience store, make sure people are paid at the convenience store, basically the boss of the convenience store, does that. While the other family members who don't particularly want to work there can go off and do something else and potentially get a career or get some kind of training to help enhance the original store, whether it be getting a business degree and learning how to run the business better, so they can at least keep the one who wants to run it, the manager wise, keep in charge of running the store and the employees, while the business one helps figure out better ways to improve profits that don't sit there and chase off the customers, or franchise out, or invent new technologies or stuff to incorporate into the convenience store. Better hot dog rolls or something. I don't know. I don't run a convenience store. But, yeah. There's a big difference. That leads back to why America has such a big driving culture where 40 miles is nothing to us. 2-hour trip is nothing to us. Oh, where'd you guys go? Oh, we drove across Georgia today. Well, what do you mean? Well, I drove from Savannah to Atlanta. Oh, is that far? It's about a 4-hour drive, with okay traffic. That's mind-boggling. I did that for a work meeting last month. Yeah, last month. I had to drive out to Marietta, which is Atlanta, right next to Atlanta. So it was terrible. I hated the drive. I fucking hated it. But yeah, that was my trip, and it was not fun. But to me, that trip is normal. I did that trip every day on a Wednesday for almost a year, getting parts for the previous company I worked for, because they wouldn't send parts from their warehouse in Stockbridge, which is right next to Atlanta, down to Savannah. So I had to get in my little vehicle, big ass truck, a Ford F50 XL. Sorry, the F250 XL. Drive all the way up there in the wee hours of the morning. Get there, give them all my bad parts, scavenge and find my parts I need, load them back up my vehicle, take back whatever else they need me to take back, and then drive back down to Savannah to unload the parts at our office. And that was pretty much my Wednesday, every Wednesday, for a year. Wasn't that bad, just was a pain in the ass. But that was the drive I did. And that's, to me, that was a normal drive. To people in England, that seems like insanity. Not all people in England think that way, but the majority of people who answer the question of, a good day trip is 40 minutes away. A day trip for us was going down to the zoo. I drove to Jacksonville Zoo last year so my son go see giraffes. He really liked the giraffe. He loved the giraffe. And we drove down there. Left in the early morning, got there right a little bit after the zoo opened up, was there for a few hours, left and drove back to Savannah. And that's what we did. Nice long day trip. About 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back. And that was our day trip. There's other things other things that I know, other things that are interesting to me is horror between the old continent, the old world, and the new world. The old world and the new world. The old world, which Europe, Asia, basically the original three continents that includes Africa, with the new world, which is North and South America. But let's focus on North America, mainly America itself, the United States of America. A lot of our horror is based upon, at least some of our original ghost stories and horror, were not based upon anything other than the woods, the forest, and things we don't quite understand outside of our everyday life. That's kind of what boils down American horror to a degree. If you think about it, a lot of our old campfire stories where people were out there in the middle of nowhere, something bad happens, and there's no one out there to help them. And an European horror is based more upon the city. And there was a documentary about this I saw this years ago, in which they explained that the reason why a lot of horror in England is centered around cities and everything else, Europe, not just England, Europe in general, is because when the industrial age kicked in, especially in England, the cities became just these meat grinders to be in. You had death all over the place. You had unsafe working conditions that would leave people mangled and butchered. You would had rats just crawling over the place. You have, like I said, death all over the fucking place. You have people dying, sickness, the starving masses, constant violence, corruption everywhere, just a pure hell. A pure, unfiltered hell. And that's where a lot of the horror comes from, is the fact it's in England, Europe, but we'll stick with England, it's the easiest. Just the cities being where everything goes bad. Mass corruption, monsters living living among you, all this stuff. And that is based upon the just how terrible the Industrial Revolution was for the culture or soul of Europe. When it comes to America, ours was the unknown. America's huge. And yes, you can drive at night and just have no one else near you. In some parts of the United States, that's very much possible all the time. We actually have a road called the Loneliest Road. And that is, you could drive that road and not see anyone for hours. Even in Georgia, which is fairly populated for what it is, it's not the most populated state by any means, but this outstretches the rural areas, you can drive and just not see anyone else. There could be woods all around you, and you're just on the highway, and there's no other cars passing you either direction. And you can do that. It's rare, but it happens. It happens enough to where I've noticed it at night. My first actual road trip by myself was, what was it? 2010? Was it 2010? No, 2015. Was it? Anyway, it was I want to say it was the year. When was it? Oh, thanks, Andrew. That's my coworker. He sent me a thing, so I gotta look at that eventually. Essentially, I think it was the year Donald Trump got elected, or no, year before that. It would have been, the year before Donald Trump got elected. Was it? No. Anyway, it was my last year at Kroger. So, Yeah, it was my last year at Kroger, and I was told to go on vacation. I was quitting like 2 weeks later, so I went on vacation. It was fine. It was the very beginning of November. They sent me on vacation because I hadn't taken my vacation yet. So I went on vacation, and I didn't know what to do. My dad said, "Well, why don't you go on a trip somewhere, son?" Okay, so I did. I got the next day. I planned on going to Helen, Georgia. Looked up where it was going to go, how long it was going to take me. I packed clothes, and first thing, early on Tuesday morning, I got in my car, stopped by Sonic to get a chili dog, some tater tots, and a milkshake, and I drove. I drove all the way to Helen, Georgia, with just my GPS. Didn't plan the trip. Didn't make sure the car was okay. Didn't get tires checked. Didn't get oil checked. Didn't do anything with my 2002 Pontiac Sunfire. I just drove, and I drove and I drove and drove until I got to Helen, Georgia, and then hoped there was a hotel room because I didn't think that far ahead. But I drove to Helen with no plans in mind. Just decided to drive up there. On the way up there, overcast skies, dark, raining on and off all day. I drove through this small little town, and I was going from like 55 miles an hour down to 25 miles an hour. The speed limit dropped that low in about half a mile. So it went from 55, 45, 35 down to 25, and that was 25 miles for this entire small town. There were three streets before the main intersection, the only intersection in the town I could see, and then 3 streets after that. And then the speed limit went back up to 55 miles an hour relatively quickly. Now, this town will always stick to me. No matter how old I get, I can always remember this town for a few things I saw in this town. I can't remember the name of the town. I probably could not get back to it if I tried, because I don't know what part of my journey this was in. I just know it was towards the middle/end of my drive. So maybe the last hour, probably the last 2 hours of my drive. This is where I saw this town. So as I'm driving up, as I'm slowing down to match the speed limit, because I don't want to get a ticket or anything else like that, I start to see the houses and the cars. I don't see any cars actually driving. All the cars are parked on the side of the road, the few cars I see, and they're in various states of decay. Very flat tires, broken windshields, rusted over bodies. And on the porches of every house that is facing the road, there are people sitting on the porch staring at me as I drive by. I get to the intersection. The only gas station that's there is destroyed. The roof's collapsed in. The pumps are burnt. So there's no actual gas station in this town. And my only thought was, I'm so glad I don't need gas right now. As I pass the intersection, still no cars in either direction. The last few houses I see facing the road also have people on the porch staring out at me. And that's a very eerie situation. This is a town I have no idea where I'm at. This is out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one knows I'm out here. Because the only people who knew I left were my roommates at the time. I didn't tell my parents, hey, I'm going to Helen, Georgia. I didn't let my parents know I was in Helen, Georgia until I got to Helen, Georgia. So if I broke down somewhere, that's it. I'm fucked. I'm stuck. But if something happens to me, no one knows where I am. So that's one of the bad parts of what I did. Another area of that trip was I'm driving through one of the back highways, because the GPS told me just to take this back highway to keep going, and I'm in the middle of this gourd field. Gourds on both sides of me. Rows and rows of gourds. As far as I can see, all gourds. Not pumpkins, gourds. And There's no one in front of me, no one's behind me. I haven't seen a car in about 30 minutes. Then I look up my rearview mirror because I hear a noise behind me, and there's this pickup truck catching up to me really fast. I'm doing about 60, and from the time I heard the noise to looked in the mirror, I can see the car is about maybe a quarter of the mile behind me. Within 2 seconds, the motherfucker's passing me. He runs through the stop sign that's ahead of us, and he takes a corner, and he's gone within like 3 seconds. It's just another case of I'm out of nowhere. There's no houses, nothing. And if something happens to me, I'm no one's gonna know where I am. And that's most of the fear of America. Is we have large sections of the country which no one's at. Or if there is someone out there, why are they out there? Who are they? Are they friendly? Are they going to help us if something happens to us? Or are they going to harm us? Downrange is another example of a great movie based on the same subject. You're on this long, out-of-the-way highway, and there's this guy with a sniper rifle sniping people, killing them for fun. And that's the whole movie, watching as these people try to survive being sniped at by a sniper who has all the patience in the world because he has everything he needs to keep watching you, and you don't know if he's always watching you or not. He eventually gets killed, but that's after a lot of messed up things happen. Other movies, such as camping movies involve people out in the middle of the woods and things going bad for them. Those are also great horror movies because, once again, you're isolated. The Blair Witch Project does so well what it does. One, because it's found footage in quotations, but it's showing 3 people out in the middle of the woods, isolated from everyone else, and everything's going wrong for them, and no one can help them. It's that fear. And that fear is kind of baked into American culture. Yes, we've started, more movies and other things have started to incorporate the fear of what's next door to us, the evils of what's around us in cities, but that stuff doesn't hit nearly as hard as I left the safety of the city, and everything started going bad for us. And that's ultimately the difference between American horror and European horror. Yes, Europeans do have the same horror as, out in the middle of the woods, but the older cities, they have the horror of the city horror. And that, I guess, kind of mixed between the two, if you think about it. If you live in the city, you're more afraid of the horror of of what's out there, what's past the city limits. But if you live out in the middle of nowhere, you're more afraid of the city itself. You'd be more afraid of what can be found inside the city. Because at least if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you kind of start to understand what's around you. I honestly don't know if that's accurate or not, because, once again, I don't know enough about the topics to really get into it. The Asian horror is fun itself. Well, Japanese horror is really fun itself because a lot of it has to do with following rules. There's rules to almost all their horror. You got the monsters and whatnot. You have the lady with the cut mouth. She asks if she's beautiful. You say yes. So then she kills you by cutting your face to make your face look like hers. You say no. She stabs you. So you have to trick her by saying, "I don't know," or asking her if she thinks you're beautiful, or anything else, basically tricking her. Then you have other ones where you have the dancing girl that chase you down and kill you. If you see her and she's dancing, you only have a limited time to run away or hide before she stops dancing. Because once she starts chasing you, she doesn't stop. You have other spirits other monsters where if you see something weird, you're supposed to just ignore it. Because if you give it focus, it will latch onto you. Just all these things. That's probably also a lot of good horror stories or monsters have rules you're supposed to follow. The Japanese monsters and horrors all have rules, and that's usually what happens is the rules get broken or something breaks a seal, which is a seal. Their seals are basically just a rule to keep something in check. So that kind of goes with the Japanese culture of you will follow the rules or something bad happens. When that whole rule idea gets applied to newer stuff or Western stuff, the rules get weird. The rules aren't really that important. The monster will still come after you, even though you didn't break the rule, because someone else broke the rule, and you just happen to be nearby. Or don't watch the video, and 7 days later you'd be killed. That's great for The Ring, or for The Grudge, the original Grudge, but doesn't really work well for America. Does it? Because we don't have that strict of a rule culture. Russia is weird because I don't think I've seen a Russian horror movie. Because if you really want to talk about it, Russia kind of is a horror movie most of the time. And I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it is about the brutalism architecture in Russia and in former Soviet Union controlled areas. I like the brutalism. I like the concrete structures. I like the rust and the rusted iron that was found in the concrete they used. I like how all of it looks. Because even the brutalist architecture, they made some beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, things with it. Yes, a lot of people died during that time frame, but still, they made some very beautiful architecture. Something that, hell, if the United States of America spent as much time designing and actually building some of these beautiful structures, the U.S. might actually look more beautiful in some areas. Their half-block idea, where they build these massive, blocks essentially. Yeah, yes, that the idea of those would be depressing as hell if they're not upkept, but we also have the American version in New York, where there's these massive, tall apartment complexes with these tiny little specks of green parks in front of them. We already have those. They just don't look as cool as the ones in Russia because they're made out of brick and not concrete. I don't know. I wouldn't mind visiting Eastern Europe just to look at the structures out there. I like watching the videos of the brutalism architecture videos compilations where it just shows videos and pictures of all these structures. I like looking at those stuff. I wouldn't mind playing a game in which you just sit there and just explore that stuff. I know someone's gonna say Stalker, but I don't want to have to fucking die to, be paranoid and be on edge the entire time I play Stalker. Painting miniatures. We'll go back to painting miniatures because that's something I like talking about. I've kind of been drifting in and out of wanting to buy more miniatures. I know it's the problem. Buying miniatures is always the problem. I do want to make a Fire Slayer army. I like the dwarves. I bought the Fire Slayer Warcry warband. And I do plan on building those, painting those on stream. And I'm probably going to record the process too, that way I can upload it to YouTube. I'm going to stream to TikTok and Kick while uploading them to YouTube. And hopefully that does something. I do understand I'm not going to become famous overnight. I know damn well I'm not going to become famous. I've I understand that. I wouldn't mind. Be nice, you know, sit there and actually be able to make some passive income from doing something I like doing. I don't know. Anyway, this is probably it for right now. I've kind of, if I want to talk about anything else, I have to set up a new topic and then go into it, and that's kind of hard to do mid-video. So, you guys, oh god damn, I did not mean to do that. Have fun! Wait,